Forum. Today we have the spectacular Dr. Matt Markel, which I'm super excited about. He's not only a TEDx speaker, he is also an executive leader and the author of The Entrepreneur, Thrive in Your Career and Achieve Financial Success, of which if you're not looking at the camera right now, you really should be because he's holding up a book of his, or he's holding up his amazing book, I should say. He has over 35 years of experience leading billion-dollar organizations. And what we absolutely love is that he brings a brand new perspective to things all related in the world of wealth and health and financial literacy, which I think really truly go hand in hand. So, hi, Dr. Matt. How are you today?
Lenora, I am fantastic. Thank you so much for
Excellent.
inviting me on your show. This is the highlight of the week for me.
And it's Monday, so go figure when we're
That's right.
recording
That's
this. So
right.
this is
Which unfortunately
spectacular.
means the week is just going straight downhill from here. But this is, we're peaking early. That's what we're doing.
All good things. It's just going to escalate from better and better from here. So I know we have had some time to talk a little bit and to give people an idea a little bit about your background. Do you want to back up a smidge and tell them the short version of who you are and all the amazing things that you do in the world?
Sure. So the kind of is a couple key points along the way, and this will paint the picture of kind of like the journey that I've been on and why I'm here talking to you all today. The and when I was very young, in my house, we focused on kind of two key attributes: working hard and being smart. But also in my household, we had this what we now know today is like the scarcity mindset. We talk about this a lot of times in different communities and so forth, like scarcity versus abundant mindset. Definitely scarcity with regards to money. We weren't extremely poor, but it was also the something that we didn't talk about in terms of money. And there was always just, it was like, well, the people that have it and then us, right? So
Hmm.
so but the hard work and the be smart, that's what pushed me into engineering. Engineering was safe. Engineering was something where I felt like I could do the most with what I had been given, and I excelled at that. I was given more and more responsibility working throughout my career. Um, but the scarcity mindset sort of thing still was kind of there, and it just got amplified. I got divorced from my first wife, and it was a huge financial setback. In my TED talk, I talked about how I was in my mid 30s and making good money, but because of I had to buy my ex-wife out of the house that I wanted to stay in, I had like very, very little cash. My cash flow, I was basically watching not pennies, but watching dollars in the bank account. So that just drove forth even more this scarcity mindset. Um, and because of that, I basically started just like abdicating financial responsibility. I was like, when I was living in LA, I had a financial planner. It's like, look, I'm good at, my job. I want you to be good at yours. Just to manage my money. Horrible idea. Not that the guy was bad, but it's like we should never abdicate our financial responsibility like that. So it was after several years, I got involved in some mastermind type communities where we looked at wealth differently. We looked at things from an abundant mindset. We looked at things from the concept of basically talking about investments and how to deal with money with the skill that I was able to use in engineering. And I basically sort of went all in on that. I was like, yes, we need it. So I took back control of my finances, took back everything from the managed my own portfolio and really learned how to do kind of like a bicycle that has two wheels. Use your career, which I love. I love engineering. I love leading corporations. That's one pedal on the bicycle, and the other pedal is your financial independence. Keep building assets. Keep working towards things that have enduring value, not just our liabilities. So that's basically it. Yeah, and then over the last several years, I've been with some pretty famous companies. I was a principal engineering fellow at Raytheon. I was the head of radar at Waymo, the Google self-driving car company. I've been a VP and president and CEO and CTO at several other tech companies, both in the self-driving and the sensor and the defense spaces.
I absolutely love that. And from somebody who also grew up in the scarcity mindset, I love, and I know I've heard you on another podcast very specifically, I love the idea of advocating for your own finances because even when I started out, it was what's a W-2? What's a 401k? I don't understand it. And I was getting so frustrated that I didn't understand it that I was like, nope, I don't even want somebody else deal with it. And my dad was the one who sat me down and said, no, you need to learn this. You need to figure it out. And you had also said, have a Sherpa, which I thought was such a great idea because there were so many times when we can label somebody as a coach or as somebody in finances, and that's what they do, rather than looking at them as somebody to learn from,
Right.
rather than give it over. You give it, you work with them. I think that's amazing.
That's Lenora, that is absolutely it. That Sherpa could be somebody that does this as a profession. That Sherpa could be somebody that just is somebody that you work with that
Yeah.
but has taken the time and learned the information before you. So we can
Yeah.
learn from I'm a big believer in the concept that we can learn something from every single person on this planet.
Oh, yeah.
So the trick is to find the ones that are so you can pay for that with certain financial people and so forth. But just find somebody that can help you. Find somebody that can
Mm-hmm.
explain a few things. Now, there's so much stuff on the information on the internet now that it's a little bit easier to find the information. It wasn't quite as easy 30 years ago, but still, having somebody explain, okay, yes, this is what this is. This is why it's important. Or yeah, you can research all these things, but it's really not applicable to you at this point. So I would, unless you're just really curious, I would save your time and focus more on this aspects here. Somebody just has your best interest at heart and
Oh,
can
yeah.
give you basically a little bit of time compression.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love the idea of time compression. That's great. And your book, I think, has such a beautiful title, The Entrepreneur, which I can definitely see the hilariousness in coming on a podcast about the Entrepreneurs Forum, but calling it The Entrepreneur. And I know a little bit about it, but for those who do not know about it, why did you call it The Entrepreneur?
Because I deep down I hate all entrepreneurs. No, no, no. I'm just kidding. Not at all.
But
Not at all. And that was Matt's end on his podcast here. No, first of all, I'm not against entrepreneurs at all. Many of my good friends are entrepreneurs, and they're very, very important. Entrepreneurs start the businesses that lead us to the innovations that basically make our lives. But what I am kind of against is so if you go on social media, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever, and because I am an entrepreneur now, I'm in a lot of these communities and I see a lot of stuff. There's just Lenora, so much hype, so much, misinformation out there about
Oh
that,
yeah.
primarily from people who are wanting you to buy their product for $500 or 5 grand. And they're trying to be an entrepreneur by selling you something
Mm-hmm.
and basically saying like, well, you can be an entrepreneur like me,
Oh
but typically those folks that are doing that are they don't really blanket statements, so that's not true universally, but
yeah.
they
Yeah.
don't get it. And even like them, they'll talk about making $10,000 a month. You can make $10,000 a month. I mean, there's one group we're talking about how to do certain things and to use on this one platform. Like, yeah, and this one guy's trying to get to 10,000 a month. $10,000 a month is 120 grand a year. That's not a really
Mm-hmm.
great salary. I mean, it's not the worst, but it's not like it's not Elon level salaries or anything like that. And it's definitely not what as I was making in a not even as a C-suite executive, even as just as an engineering leader. So
Mm-hmm.
the the all the hype on it is really kind of what I was against. And
Yeah.
it came from a conversation I was having with some folks, and they were trying to say like, oh, you should. It was before I took my last C-suite role with this defense company. Be like, you should just start your own business and do strategic advising and so forth. You're really good at it, and you think like an entrepreneur. I was like, yeah, but that's not really how I identify myself. I'm much
Yeah.
more I want to work in a corporation. I want to lead, 50s, hundreds, thousands of people. That's really what I love to do more
Yeah.
than anything else. And so I'm kind of not really I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm more like an antipreneur. And it would just that title from that just offhanded comment stuck. So
Yeah. I love that. And you know what's so interesting is because so many people, and I completely agree with you about how people can really get there is not necessarily the entire culture, but people are constantly selling you stuff.
right.
And you can absolutely be very quickly misinformed. And I think it can also be a little bit toxic in the grind harder, go faster, 26 hours a day, 10 days a week, over caffeinated, no sleep. And it just really can become a beast in its own way and not in a good way. And what I love is, especially for when you're saying the entrepreneur and that you want to lead companies like that, people still want to work for companies. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, but they do want great leadership and they do want openness and transparency.
Absolutely. We all want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves.
I
Full
love that.
stop.
Yeah.
We all want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. And the for most people, now I think Kevin O'Leary says the number of entrepreneurs is about 1 out of 3. With
Oh,
all
yeah.
respect to Kevin Leary, I think he's off by about a factor of 3. I think it's more like 1 out of 10. Like one out of
Okay.
10 people really is set out to be an entrepreneur. And it's not because they're smarter. As a
That's a
matter of fact,
different set out. Totally different wording.
yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I think it's more of like they haven't found a niche that they're really good at. And
Yeah.
I this is a little, little out there, but most people that are entrepreneurs are not really, really good at something. They're not really, really good at like engineering or marketing or supply chain. They picked up a lot of
Hmm.
skills, but they may have bounced around a little bit. And because of the need to the need to make a living, plus this desire to do something with themselves, they find that entrepreneurship is the best way forward on that. Um, but that's not most people. Most people, they don't want the risk. We all know some of the numbers, right? 4 out of 5 businesses fail. If you're a first-time business owner, your success rate is 18%. If you're a second time business owner, but your first time wasn't successful, but now you've learned everything. You know all
Yeah.
the secrets. You've watched all the Shark Tank episodes. You've done everything. Your success rate goes from 18% only up to 20%. So
Yeah.
it's really the numbers are stacked against you,
Yeah.
and the we like to think of like, oh, entrepreneurs have all this freedom, have all this. Yes, you have control over your schedule to some degree, but everybody's got a boss, everybody's got a mortgage, everybody's got something else. If pick whatever entrepreneur you think has got the most clout. If the president of the United States calls, they're going to be on the president's schedule. They're not going to be on their schedule. If a big client calls, you're
Yeah.
going to be on that client's schedule, not on your schedule. So
Yeah.
everybody has, different leverage in different situations, whether you're an
For
entrepreneur
sure.
or a professional as a W-2. It really doesn't matter. So
Definitely. Definitely. And I love also another thing, especially when it comes so going back to your book, when you talked about the standard of retirement is pretty bleak. And I think especially I'm definitely gonna say you and I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. So we do
the
think a
best
little bit
generation.
more totally. Best music too. We do think a bit more about retirement versus people that are in their 20s or in their 30s, and it really does evolve. And I think that's where you come across beautifully is advocating for yourself and saying, pay attention, especially because sometimes when you read these articles, it can feel very bleak, but you really open up the conversation. And that's where that transparency comes in also. And I think something that cannot be underestimated is the way that you share. You really make it very educational, very, this is okay. Let's have the conversation. It's not a judgment thing. And truly, that's where you excel.
Well, thank you so much. The when I'm One thing I want to mention
Yeah.
is everything that's in the book. The book's available on Amazon. It did very well on Amazon.
It's going to be in the show notes.
Still it's still on the it's still on there. But that whole program that's in the book,
Yeah.
I put that entire program for free on my school community.
Oh,
And it's
cool.
not just some words. I actually walk through lessons. I've recorded a whole bunch of video lessons. So you get that whole program that basically tells you how to turn your career into how to turn your job into a wealth building career that you'll love waking up for in the morning. That whole thing is on my school community, school.com, skool.com/ anti-dashpreneur. Antipreneur always
That
has a
is
dash
super
in it,
cool.
anti-dashpreneur. And that's for free. Just can join for free. Now, if you want me to go through the program with you, then there's a investment involved that's involved in that. But one of the things that we talk about when I'm working with you on something is like, look, it doesn't matter anything about how you got to the situation. This is there's
Yeah.
We are completely free from blame, completely free from shame. This is we're just looking very objectively at where you are because if we don't understand that, then we're not going to be able to figure out how to get to where you want to go, right? If you're trying
Yeah.
to get to St. Louis, Missouri, where the St. Louis Cardinals play, um, and you're in Boston versus you're in LA, you're going to go completely different directions, right?
Yeah.
If you're in Boston, you're going to go west. If you're in LA, you're going to go east. But you can't say, how do you get to St. Louis? Well, you go east. Well, that's going to be a horrible idea if you live in LA, right? Because you have to all the way around the earth and
Yeah.
water and sharks and stuff along the way. Uh, so the uh, so we just look at it very objectively to
Yeah.
basically see where you are. There's no judging in this. The one one amplification of that I want to say, the you get to this point where no one really cares how much money you have, right?
Hmm.
And I think that point is actually a lot lower than people think. But just to use as an example that's kind of beyond both of where we are right now financially,
Hmm.
is I believe that Elon Musk has about three times as much money as Warren Buffett. Okay.
Okay.
So I think that's a number. I looked this up a while back, so that's directionally accurate. Elon Musk has a lot more money than Warren Buffett. If they got in
Hmm.
a room together, do you think Warren Buffett's going to be sitting there like, oh wow, uh, I don't deserve to be in this room. I've got imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
People will find me out. I'm not the person that everybody thinks. No, he's Warren Buffett.
Yeah.
He's the man.
Yeah.
But even though Elon Musk has like three times as much money as him, so comes to this point where, look, we don't care about the numbers from a judgment of you standpoint. We only care
Yeah.
about the numbers in terms of like, how are they helping you to get to where you want to be?
Hmm.
And one final thought on this is that we talk about numbers and we talk about money, we talk about wealth because it's easy to quantify. But the
Hmm.
main thing is like we always have to come back to the concept that this is a tool. Money is a tool for living the life that we want to live, not
Hmm.
the end state. If money's the end state, you'll never have enough because until you have all of it, which is just
Yeah.
just meaningless, right? You can't have all the money because people find
Yeah.
another form of currency. So until you have all of it, though, it's you'll never have enough. So you have to
Yeah.
realize that money is just the goal, is just the tool, not the goal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I think also another thing at the very core level is how you identify with it. If you wrap your value in money, and this is exactly what I'm worth, versus saying this is a tool, this is part of what I offer to this world, it really shifts your identity. Even if we look back to, and I'm sure you still have, the recall of like, oh yeah, I did have some self-limiting beliefs, or I didn't have a great identity with money. I didn't have a great relationship with money versus now where you are and how that evolution actually took place. And I think it's so important to point out that although, yes, we would love for it to naturally be an overnight thing, like we woke up one day and then boom, I had all these skills. But look at all the great things that you've built in building those skills.
Absolutely. There's a great phrase that comes up a lot during goal setting time, which is like kind of like the end of the year or beginning of the year,
Yeah.
which is the goals that you set are important, but the more important thing is that they force you to become the type of person who can achieve those goals,
Yeah.
and that's the real value in them. So that
Totally.
the goals are not, not as much to be like, okay, I accomplished this. As a matter of fact, the one of the things that we talked, kind of like realizations and thinking about how we view the world differently now.
Yeah.
We talk about success a lot, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and when we ask people, most people, how they think about success, they haven't even thought about it. Or if they
Oh,
do,
yeah.
they'll think of something very superficial, like, well, for me, if I want to, success for me is when I have $1 million, or $2 million, or three or five or whatever.
Hmm.
Very, very superficial. Or even worse, so like success for me is when I become the senior director of this or the VP of this or whatever. Very, 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 very
Hmm.
superficial. I've become more and more convinced over the years that if you define success achievement based like that, being the
Yeah.
VP, having $1 million or $5 million or whatever, the that you'll never be happy because as soon as you achieve that goal, then on to the next one, right? What's
Yeah.
next? So I made $1 million.
Yeah.
Then okay, next year, well, if I got $1 million, these other people that I'm looking up, they have 2 million. So I need to have 2 million in assets. So it's never going to work out if it's achievement based.
Yeah.
But the better way to view success is to imagine the life that you want to live, right? And be in very, very vivid detail. You're
Hmm.
basically almost like you're making this painting of your life. Imagine paint the life that you want to live, and then you move into that painting. But you have to be
Hmm.
very specific on that. And I think about my life and like the things that I really like to do and am able to do. After I did this exercise a few years ago, I have I've actually moved myself quite a bit more into the life that I really want to have. And it's
Yeah.
not some idealized thing of like, oh, I want to garden and play golf. No, I don't like gardening at all, and I'm terrible at golf. I mean, I maximize the strokes per dollar ratio in golf, so I'm terrible at it. But there are certain things that I like, and I've really been able to double down on those by going through this exercise of defining the life that you want, not
Yeah.
the achievements, but the life that you want, and
Yeah.
that's success. I have a I believe in this so much. I created a free resource for it, and if I can just plug that for a second, if you go
Always.
to our entrepreneur website, anti-preneur.com slash paint dash the dash life, then there's a
Ooh.
whole workbook that, and it's all free. That basically this whole workbook that we created, my team and I created to basically ask you the questions to
Yeah.
help build this painting, Lenora, this painting of how we want to live our life. And
That is
I've
very
had
cool.
several of my clients go through that and they're like, wow, this is before we even get to, and we all go through this. Every one of the people that are working personally with me in my
Hmm.
entrepreneur program, that's the first thing we do is we work through that and some limiting beliefs on career before we
Yeah.
jump into numbers, before we jump into cash flow or balance sheets
Hmm.
unsticking their career or network circles, anything like that. It's
Yeah.
going back into this. What does success look like for you? Because if you don't know what success looks like, then you're not going to get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I absolutely love that. That's so, so helpful. And there was, on a quick side note, there was a period of my life where I would hear things like that and I would turn away from it because when, at least for me, there was such a negative narrative in my head that I couldn't even get into it. It was, but what if this or that won't happen? And that's how I ended up specializing in thoughts and in people's voices in their head because people are aware of their thoughts, but how aware are you? And more importantly, how do you shift the conversation in your own head is extraordinarily powerful so that when you get to that point where you want to sit down, you're not going, this is impossible. You're going, now we're getting somewhere. Now this is feeling a lot better. And it completely changes the entire experience, which I think is so, so powerful. And I love also that in your book you mentioned at right in the headline actually, thrive in your career. How does that look for people or even why was that such an important theme for you?
Because that's a great point. That and it's like the bicycle analogy, right? If you have a bicycle with one pedal, a bicycle
Yeah.
with one pedal is like the worst idea ever, right? Because you push down and then what
You're,
happens? You either wobble or you fall and fall over, or your feet
yeah.
come out and all forward progress is stopped, right? So
Yeah.
a bicycle with one pedal is the worst idea ever. But the two pedals of the bicycle represent your career and your financial independence. When you push down on the career, what does it give you? It gives you actually, what do we get in the workplace today? We can get joy, we can get validation, we can get autonomy, mastery, purpose, all of those things that are
Yeah.
good. Just the one thing that we can't get out of our job is the guarantee of financial success. Right?
Yeah.
You can be guaranteed to have a safe place and to be paid market rate, but the turning that into financial independence, turning that into financial success, that's on you. So use your career, double down on that. That's what gives us joy and validation. I love engineering. As a matter of fact, as soon as we're done taping here, I've got one of my clients. I'm finishing up some engineering analysis I'm doing for them because so that they can
That's so
basically
cool.
hopefully win this very large contract. So the
That's super cool.
so that's I love doing that. That's one of the ways I give back to society.
Yeah.
But you need the financial independence aspect as well, the smart investing, the understanding your expenses, all of the basically managing the business of you financially. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason I say
Oh,
thrive in your
managing
career
the
is because if
business of
you
you.
when you work those together, it's like a bicycle. Your career provides the
Yeah.
financial fuel for your financial business.
Yeah. That is incredible. Was there something that was the catalyst that got you started in this?
So there was my story, right, of moving
Yeah.
along the from scarcity to you know realizing that like you can never always be the smartest one in the room,
Mm-hmm.
and if you are, then maybe you should get a bigger
Yeah,
room or
big
get
room.
looking for different rooms. So
Yeah.
there's my journey. There's another aspect as well. One of the this one individual who's just absolutely brilliant. He worked for me on several. He actually followed me around from company to company, working for me. One of the most brilliant guys I've ever known. And after I had left one company, he was with them, and the company ran into trouble, and they did a layoff, and he lost his job. And I was like, well, all right, man. So what are you going to do now? And he's like, well, Matt, I don't know, but I gotta do something. You know, we can't stop working. We don't have enough money to stop working. And he's
Yeah.
like a couple years, right around my age, you know, so within a
Okay.
year or two my age. So at this point, it's like mid 50s or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, this brilliant guy who's now in this like, oh, I gotta find a job
Yeah.
situation. Why is that? Why is someone who's like just that absolutely brilliant on the math and engineering and physics and
Mm-hmm.
science side, why is he not in a better shape financially?
Yeah.
And we know I absolutely believe that wealth is a teachable skill. Acquisition of wealth is a teachable skill. So he just must not have had the teachers that he had. And I was like,
Yeah.
well, I can't quite fix him exactly, but I
Mm-hmm.
can try to fix a bunch of other people
Yeah.
and keep them from ending up in the situation that my friend had. You know,
Yeah.
where we are today, the what we're doing in the United States just flat out is not working. We
Mm-hmm.
have a $7 trillion shortfall in retirement
Oh
savings
yeah.
in our country today. $7 trillion. No,
Oh,
that is
alarming.
yeah, and to put that two things to put that in perspective. One, that's a seven with 12 zeros after it. So that's a lot of zeros.
Okay.
I was recording a video recently, and I used a whiteboard to record, and I was like seven. I was writing, and uh, I didn't plan it out, and I ran out of space on the whiteboard to put all the zeros actually, because I was like, I'd like some
Yeah.
kind of, you know, how you go down the side with writing more, and so
Mm-hmm.
I ran out of space on my whiteboard. The second thing is that number, that $7 trillion, that is more than the United States federal government spent in 2024.
Oh.
So yeah, so a whole year of US federal government spending still wouldn't shore up the deficit in retirement. So what we're
Yeah.
doing isn't working. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of when I realized that and I looked at the stats and I looked at my friend and I was like, you know, I am where I am because I've had some smart people act
Yeah.
as Sherpas to me along the way. They're the ones
Yeah.
that have like kind of shown me the way on certain things. I'm I'm good financially. You know, I don't need to do anything if I don't want to. I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing this because I'm very passionate about it
Yeah.
and I can give forward to these other people what some people have done for me. So
Yeah.
that's exactly why we're doing this here.
I love that. That's incredible. And that's for your program of working with you. And then that's also the free one why you created that.
Right, exactly. Go
How
sign up at the
amazing.
free one. There's some things in there if you want to get in contact with me about seeing if you're a good fit for the one where you work directly with me.
Yeah.
It's you know, I'm only taking on a small number of people that I do that with just
Yeah.
because because of my time. But it is something that I just work with you. I work direct.
Yeah.
a done for you. I can't do it all for you.
Yeah.
And it's not a do it yourself. That's kind of the free one, but it's a done with
Yeah.
you. So we'll work together on this, and we'll tailor the program to exactly what you need.
I love
I've
that.
I've had several folks go through this, and like each one is different. One person really he he was doing some smart things financially. We fixed a
Hmm.
couple things there, but the main thing was like he was stuck on something in his career,
Yeah.
and the really just needed to figure out something there.
Hmm.
And we spent a lot of time. We actually spent, we added in an extra whole session of going over just this one aspect and see if we could figure something out there. And finally it popped free, and we're like, oh, well, here's the answer. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's it. That's it. So, and you could see
How
like the
cool is
elation in his
that?
eyes and how
Yeah.
excited he was. And like, yes, that's exactly what we needed.
Yeah.
So that was, so each one is different, but that's what we're doing now with people is it's all the stuff's there for free, $1 million education of basically how to go through the entire program.
Yeah.
But if you want me to do it with you, then then we'll do that. But
Yeah.
we got to have a conversation first just to make sure that it's a good fit for both of us.
I feel like you on your website you'll need to add wealth as a teachable skill, whether in like sweatshirt form or like a hat or something. But there's definitely something there because that is an amazing, memorable line, hands
I like
down.
it. I'm
That
writing
is
it down right
great.
now. It's a
That
great
you
marketing
said
idea.
it. It is a amazing line. I love that. Um, so I have just a few more questions for you. Very specifically, would you give anybody, especially for our audience who tends to not be in their early 20s, but any tips right now for where they might be in their career or things that maybe you wish you had known or you're like, oh man, if that was a mistake. Please share it with everybody so that they don't make this mistake. Anything like that.
The the mistakes that we make, it's interesting, right?
Oh
I was
yeah.
asked the other day if you could go back and change anything. And the number of things that I would actually change is extremely small because you never know. Okay, yes, I did this thing and I was a moron. That was the dumbest thing ever, but that taught me something that I then needed later on. So,
Yeah, for
but
sure.
the things that I would say that as I looked at my journey, right, trying to be the smartest one in the room, trying to be, and being very, very focused on that, always be working hard. Those are
Hmm.
great skills,
Yeah.
and don't not do those. But I would say basically yes and on that.
Yeah.
Always try to be smart, always make being smart and being knowledgeable and being informed a key aspect of your personality, and realize that you can't always be that one, and that relationships with people will actually trump your personal intelligence, right? So building the relationships early, that can absolutely be, and doubling down on that as much as you double down on making yourself smart, making yourself knowledgeable. So that would
Yeah.
be one thing. Um, and then on the working hard, I think that's the when we talk about entrepreneurs, there's like these two camps. There's the ones that talk about, yes, it's the grind, it's the 26 hours a day, it's the what's it called, the nine,
Hustle.
what's that? Well, there's a term like we use in Silicon Valley now. It's like the basically where you work like uh, um, you know 8 hours, 8 days a week, or 7 days a week. I'm completely blowing this. That's it's some basically where you're working like basically about 12 hours a day most days of the week,
Yeah.
and the and working hard is very important. There's this other camp that basically is like, nope, I don't do anything. I only work on my number one thing, and I only work on that. Well, if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're a
Yeah.
solopreneur, there's a lot of stuff that you need to get done. It may not be the most
Hmm.
important thing, but if you don't do it, there's gonna be a bad situation. If you don't take out the
Yeah.
trash, that's gonna be a bad situation, right? Is that your number one, most valuable, vital skill, taking out the trash? No, unless you're a trash company, that's not your most vital thing, but it's still very, very important. If you don't do it,
Yeah.
bad things are going to happen. So these two schools of thought on what you should work on.
Very much
But
so.
in reality, the I was very much on the working hard side. Adding into that a yes and for, but identify the things that really move the needle and focus on those. Focus on those first. That's the
Yeah.
key. So and that's when I do my weekly goals, and actually what I've taught all of my leadership teams at the last several companies I've been with is concepts that move the needle. As a matter of fact, I created this. There's a, in a community that we're in, we have these different laws or success principles where we talk about the law of movement. Well,
Hmm.
Matt's law of movement is two things: um, move with urgency and work on things that move the needle. If you do those two things,
Those are
everything
great
you do
ones.
move with urgency, but also focus on the things that truly move the needle, then you'll get a lot more done than anybody else.
I love that. Matt's laws of movement. That's a
Matt's
that's
law
a
of movement.
plot twist. I like that one. That was great. I love that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
I just My goal in all this is to help as many people as possible. Full stop. So the if you want to know more, connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm the Matt Markel that looks like me on LinkedIn. So come follow me on LinkedIn. I put some really useful content out there about leadership and finances and your career. Usually about 4 days a week. Usually Monday through Thursday.
Nice.
So definitely connect with me. Follow me on LinkedIn. If you haven't listened to my podcast, Thrive and Achieve with Dr. Matt Markel, it's available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify. Come check that out as well. And then definitely go on over to the school community. And if you want that free resource, anti-preneur.com/paint-the-life. So, yep, absolutely. So check those out. And if I can help you, just hit me up. I'll find a way to help you. 100%.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Matt. It was fantastic speaking with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to our wonderful listeners, thank you so much for spending time with us here today. And until